Hey guys, make sure to like and subscribe. I appreciate it. I wanted to do this video today because there's a lot of misinformation I've seen out there, and I personally got confused and couldn't figure it out. So, in October, I bought a 23 TX300. Love the bike. Currently has 4.2 hours on it. I haven't ridden it since the end of October because up in New Hampshire, the weather's been bad. However, I only ride moto. So I ended up picking up this 300 SX and I'll be selling the TX300. When I bought this SX, I immediately noticed that the seat height was quite a bit taller. And everyone will think, well, of course it's taller because the Huskies have lowered suspension. They have, a different knuckle and a different pull rod. Well, that's not the case on the TX300. I have confirmed this. The forks, the shock, the knuckle, and the pull rods all are the same between the KTM XC, TX300, and the SX300, though that does have stiffer valving. But the forks are all identical. The shock's identical. It has the same travel, and that's really important for you guys to know before you go make a decision on which bike you want based on your height and weight. Some people need the taller bike, some want the shorter one, but I will tell you the TX300 is right in the middle. It is the same componentry as on the KTM XC and SX. The subframe is actually identical, save for the grab bar. With the KTM, it's opened up in here, and that is part of the subframe. But if you pull the subframes off like I did and measure them, they are identical. If you look up the part numbers, they are identical for the forks, the shock, the knuckle on the rear suspension, and the pull rods. Now, that is different from the four strokes, for example. The four strokes have a different knuckle, a different pull rod, and they have stop limiters in the forks and on the shock. So the travel is actually slightly less than the KTM and the TX300. I personally, I'm 5'11", 209 pounds right now, so I'm a little heavier than I normally am, usually 190. But at 5'11", the KTM is a little tall for me. This new KTM is actually taller than the previous generation as well. The Husky is actually a perfect height. So let me back up here. The 300XC 23 and SX, which this bike is, comes in at 37.72 inches of seat height. The TX300 is 37.32, so 0.4 inches lower. And then if you compare that to, like, say, a TC250 or the four strokes FC, you're at 36.97 on the four strokes and 37.01 on the TCs. Now, the difference, though, again, to reiterate, when you buy a KTM XC or TX300, the TX300 has the same suspension as the KTM. It's not reduced travel. It's not lower. It does sit 0.4 inches. If you measure it, it's about a half an inch difference. And where does that difference come from? The seat. If you pull both seats off and you measure the seat, the KTM seat is taller. It does have stiffer foam in it as well, quite a bit stiffer. I prefer the seat height of the Husky, but that's an easy change. All I have to do is buy the 15 mil lower seat, and that gives me 0.590 of an inch lower seat height. Same thing if you bought the TX300 and you're a taller guy, go buy the taller seat. You can get a 20 mil seat, a 15 mil taller seat, and get the same thing. The big thing to note that nobody is talking about is the TX300 and the XC300 and the SX all share the same suspension. So in terms of seat height, the only difference is the actual seat. The Husky takes the seat from the FC and the TC, while the KTM is the KTM seat and it's taller. So don't be discouraged and don't make your decision on buying a TX purely thinking that it has the lowered suspension. It doesn't. It has the same exact suspension as the KTMs. If you go into the other Husky line, the FC or the TCs, then those do have lowered suspension. So hope you guys found it helpful, and make sure to like and subscribe and comment below. Thanks again.